And good morning to you, Saint Lucia. For those of you here at home and off in the diaspora, I want to say good morning to the wider world as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. And to the morning update, it's the Morning Brew with Lisa and Herma here at the studios of the Government Information Service. You're watching us on channel 122 on cable, and as well as on the Government of Saint Lucia YouTube and Facebook pages. It has been indeed another eventful weekend. We saw lots of rain.
A rainy weekend indeed.
Coming down on Friday. There was a flood warning that was issued. We had images of the
quite a bit of rain, especially in the city center. Yes,
the flooding was just immense there. We'll be having some discussion with the National Emergency Management Organization. The director, Ms. Dorine Gustave, will be speaking with her a little later on this morning, as well as Andre Joyeux, who's the director for Met Services here.
We do know that it's the hurricane season, and there are quite a few systems in the sea, as they see it. So we'll hear a little more about that.
And we also have some information to share with you. COVID-19, very, very important. While we're dealing with all of the other things that life throws at us, COVID-19 remains in the main. So on Saturday, we heard from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs. They had confirmed 156 new cases. And they also received the recovery of 34 individuals from COVID-19. I was, like 156 new cases, ouch. But then I heard about the recovery and I was like, okay, so maybe we'll be able to see bigger breakthroughs. But I was crushed on Sunday when there was the reporting of 121 new cases and only 6 recoveries.
And I believe our act is right now at 1,450.
Yes.
It is
staggering.
It is staggering.
It's very staggering, because then we have to begin to consider all of the other factors, what it is doing to the healthcare system in terms of space for individuals who need it, because we know the capacity for the respiratory hospital that is stretched at the moment is minimal. We do know that individuals are being made to quarantine and isolate at home.
That's right.
And so we've heard from the Minister of Health that there will be an increase in resources for the health care sector. There'll be increased monitoring and increased doctors and so forth. So while the situation is looking daunting, the government of Saint Lucia is moving with absolute haste in being able to deal with the situation.
Very true.
So just to let you know that vaccination remains the effective measure in reducing severe illness where COVID-19 is concerned. And as of today, Monday, 23rd August, we're having the Pfizer vaccine being rolled out. So this is awesome.
And we're hearing that children 12 years to 17 years are actually being encouraged, well, parents are actually being encouraged to vaccinate their children because Pfizer is suitable for that age range as well. And
we are that right now. So down at the VG Sports Complex, coming in this morning, just about 7 a.m., so that the workers there were they were bustling, getting busy, preparing for individuals who would come in from 9 a.m. So the vaccination site a.m. to 4 p.m. at the VG Sports Complex, as well as the Soufrière Hospital grounds. That's where they are for today. Of course, here at GIS, NTN will be continuing to update you as to where the vaccination sites are. But for today, just know you can go to the VG Sports Complex and the Soufrière Hospital grounds in being able to get that. So we want to move very quickly because we do, as I indicated, have lots of information for you. Last week, I think it must have been Friday, we would have seen vaccination policy consultation that was held.
Yes.
And it's given a sort of synopsis of what it was. So that consultation has ended and they're beginning now to collate some of that information. I want to go to Dr. Selma George, our Chief Medical Officer, and she speaks about that consultation and what really the overall objective is.
The consultation was very informative. Apart from providing the background knowledge to our stakeholders, we ensured that we gave enough time to be able to listen to their concerns and to get it and to allow for the discussion. So the majority of the consultation was giving us a chance to listen to the voice of the various stakeholders. So it ranged from those members who were completely against the use of the vaccines, and they were able to give us what some of their fears were, what some of their concerns were, and they also indicated how they would prefer vaccines to be rolled out, how they wanted it to be made available to the public and to who. And we also got some members, for example, from the business sector who indicated their responsibility for providing a safe environment for their staff to work. So we did take note of the viewpoints of a lot of those stakeholders, and we invited them in 1 week to provide their position paper, which we are going to use to guide so that Cabinet can get a feel of the opinions and the ideas and the views of the various stakeholders for their information. It also gave us an idea of where we are in terms of the possibility of us getting to herd immunity. It gave us an idea of some of the myths that we need to work on within the communities, and they were able to guide us as to how they feel about the entire discussion. So I think it was extremely informative, and it will definitely guide how we communicate to the public moving forward.
Belmajor there. So speaking about the National COVID-19 Vaccination Policy Consultation, we want to be able to go to a part of that consultation in the presentation segment. Dr. Stephen King, anatomical pathologist here in Saint Lucia. He's working alongside of the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs on the whole COVID-19 pandemic, the vaccination drive. And he presented on COVID-19, the vaccines, its benefits, some of the risks there are, because yes, there are. And he explains what those risks are vis-a-vis what benefits are, and take an overall look at what the national stance should be moving forward.
Some of the benefits of vaccination and better individual outcomes, as we have seen, interestingly, both with acute COVID disease, as we've talked about, but also in long COVID disease. Long COVID disease is symptoms that persist beyond 12 weeks, and they can be quite severe, and they affect anywhere between 15 and 25% of people who have suffered with COVID disease, including young people. Studies are showing us that people who are vaccinated have a 2/3 reduction in their long COVID symptoms. And hence, that's one of the reasons why we advise people who've recovered from COVID to get vaccinated, especially if they have long COVID symptoms. The other benefit is less hospitalization. Very important for the country. This is so important, and to underscore it, if we have a lot of hospitalizations and we overwhelm our health services, as is quite likely in a overwhelming epidemic like we are on the brink of right now, many people that we would otherwise have saved who did have COVID, we will not be able to save, because we will run out of the critical resources, oxygen and human resources in particular, who will begin to fail from fatigue. But in addition, we're going to cause death of other people who don't have COVID, because our services will be stretched just managing the urgent or the emergencies of COVID. And we've seen this happening already. Cancellations of cancer patients and their surgeries and so on. So, there's a lot of other mortality when you overwhelm the health service that we need to understand. In terms of the benefits from less transmission, this was mentioned a bit before, but the less the transmission, the less the chance of mutations and variants, and the less the chance that we're going to get a variant that is going to be resistant to the vaccines. That is a nightmare scenario that we don't want. The other thing is, can we stop the pandemic? And there's a debate on this. Because of the RO of this Delta, we used to say that it was a 67%, shall we say, if we got herd immunity at 67% of our population or 70% of our population. But when the RO goes up, you have the herd immunity, you have to get to a higher level. So with a Delta, with a higher RT, I should say, a higher reproducibility rate or reproductive rate, therefore you have to go to a higher level of population immunity, maybe 80%. Some experts are even saying maybe we will not be able to get to herd immunity. And we may have to just look at having reduced transmission and pushing this virus back. I hope that is not the situation. I hope we can get to herd immunity. The risks of vaccination, we spoke about AstraZeneca clotting and bleeding, which is the thrombocytopenic, the immune thrombocytopenia that you get in rare cases, 1 in 100,000 in the over 40s and 1 in 50,000 in the under 40s. Deaths at about 1 in a million. Pfizer has a myocarditis, inflammation of the heart problem, about a 4 in 100,000 vaccinated people, younger males being more susceptible. But the deaths are quite rare, and in fact, 1 in a million, but usually frail and elderly, as the Norway data is showing us. The other problem with Pfizer, unfortunately, is the waning of immunity, which is the Israel experience, and demanding boosters, as we are hearing the United States wanting to do now. And of course, Israel has already started doing that. Breakthrough infections. This was done from the US State Department and some of the hospital data. And making the point, as it was done in a previous slide, I might add, that vaccination does not eliminate infection, does not eliminate admissions to hospital, does not eliminate death, but it significantly reduces it. So you do get breakthrough infections. And the data from the United States indicates this: about a 1.1% of COVID hospitalizations are vaccinated people, and 1.6% of COVID deaths are vaccinated people. This can probably double with the Delta variant, however. Just to tease you a bit, I just put this here. There's a nice study that shows this is a ranking of non-pharmaceutical strategies which are most effective, because vaccination does not stand on its own. We're going to have to continue with protocols and continue with other strategies. And these are the strategies, the top 7 strategies across the world as being effective: restricting gatherings, closing schools, border restrictions, masking, public education, especially with good risk communication, movement restrictions, and interestingly, assistance to vulnerable populations. This was a study, a little survey done by the Ministry of Health in Saint Lucia in February, and it makes some important points for us. One of them is that people do believe they're at risk of getting COVID. They do believe that vaccines are important. They do believe that vaccines are safe. That's in general. However, they are more skeptical about new vaccines. They are skeptical about whether corona vaccines will protect. As you can see, the percentage has dropped there. They are very concerned about side effects. They are somewhat trusting of information from public authorities. They are quite trusting of information from their doctors. And if they say that if a healthcare worker recommends a vaccine to them, they will hardly refuse. I think this gives us an inkling as to what some of the things we might want to do to address vaccine hesitancy. And the Local Government Association of the UK highlights these 3 C's as the strategy to overcome vaccine hesitancy. One is confidence. That people must feel safe and they must trust those of us who are seeking to treat them. Complacency, they must understand the COVID risk, and this is the risk communication piece. Convenience, you must make it very convenient, readily accessible, culturally sensitive, and it must be a high quality service we offer them. So my last 2 slides, I want to tease you with some points for you to consider in this debate. First of all, the ethics of the response. Persuasion versus coercion. Which is more ethical? I point out that many of the people, the conspiracy theorists and the anti-vaxxers use the fact that the infection case fatality rate of COVID-19 is very low. And that's as I pointed out earlier, 0.23% or 0.2% in Saint Lucia. That they use that to say that this is not such a dangerous virus. Clearly, that is not true, as we all know, as you can see in front of our faces and in Martinique. However, on paper, it looks so. And of course, this lends itself to the argument, why use sanctions and why use coercion? There are other reasons, though, and there are mental health reasons, human rights reasons as to why we might want to tackle or use more persuasion rather than coercion. That's the debate. And our CMO mentioned about individual versus public rights. Also, we need to understand the long, medium, and short-term consequences of decisions we make here, precedent setting, and all the other consequences consequences individually and collectively. So we must be wise in our decision making.
And that's part of the presentation made by pathologist, anatomical pathologist, Dr. Stephen King-Hermer, to the National COVID-19 Vaccination Policy Consultation. And the consultation, as I said last week, Thursday, very, very broad, being about the trade union representatives. You had the Saint Lucia Medical and Dental Association there represented. You had the legal minds in the persons of Dr. Rosemary Bell Antoine. Mm-hmm. We also had Sir Dennis Byron, because they've been working on an OECS sort of policy when it comes to the legality surrounding COVID-19 and vaccination most specifically. And to the conversations had across the Caribbean, and I've been listening to the debate over in Jamaica. The Prime Minister there, Right Honorable Andrew Holness, had indicated that the government was not going the way of mandatory vaccination, but then you have questions being raised and the conversation, national conversations surrounding the fact that in order for children to be able to have the in-person, face-to-face instruction to be in the classroom, they need to be vaccinated.
True.
Businesses, because the government can't say to a business establishment, well, we can't, don't ask people to be vaccinated to come into your business, because there are certain rights that I have a right for me to choose not to be vaccinated as an individual. A business owner has the right to do what is best for his or her establishment as well. And so what we need to have is being able, consultation provided, allow all the voices to contend, and then for all of us to understand now what is the information exactly on COVID-19 and more specifically vaccination, in order for us to be making informed decisions to exercise what our rights are. Because while we may have individual rights, you also those rights need to be able to be in line with and should be able to be of the benefit to all individuals.
You're very right in saying that, Lisa. And I believe when it comes to COVID-19, the fact that it's not just our healthcare system that's being affected is where we're seeing the reason we're seeing that we need so many parties involved and so many people agreeing on what the decision should be as a country, as a region. You see the economic aspect of COVID-19, rightfully, as Dr. King mentioned. It's not just COVID-19. We're thinking about also people with other illnesses that may be affected of our healthcare system, may be becoming overwhelmed. Rightfully, you mentioned children in schools probably having to be vaccinated. And I remember listening to a conversation where people were saying, this thing barely affects children. But what they do not realize, now that we're seeing the Delta variant, it is said to be affecting more young people. In addition to that, although a child may not be as affected as somebody who may have an underlying issue, these children are going back into homes with people who may be living with underlying conditions. So there are so many little things, and it's like a domino effect with COVID-19. And that is the reason why we do need all the voices. We do need a singular decision in terms of how we are going to affect COVID-19. And it needs to be flexible as well, because as we do know, we do not have all the information. And as we progress throughout this pandemic, new information is being discovered about this virus.
And that's why, again, as you use the word flexibility, we must be able to understand that while the government may announce one protocol or measures or position or policy, that because COVID-19 is with, they would have to change, perhaps within 1 hour, have to change what has been announced in order to be able to what would have emerged unexpectedly. So we want to leave it there for now regarding COVID-19. We want to take a very short break. When we come back, we'll be speaking with the director of the National Emergency Management Organization. She's Ms. Dorine Gustave. We'll be talking about a range of things, the fact that we saw all of those rains and some widespread flooding, especially in downtown Castries on a Friday. And of course, we want to talk about our brothers and sisters up in Haiti. Stay with us. It's Lisa and
on the Morning
Brew.
Pas toucher bouchou, pas toucher zio, ouest caillou, ma web protecte famille, quand ça caille trop, ou pas catan, police caille baou.
Couvert bouchou avant pousser, avant westerne et moucher, lavez les mots et chavoublé, ouest caillou soublé. Comment c'est moi qui t'ai oisé, avec quoi mon ouest papier, toi qu'est-ce que nous camouté, corona caille yo coup de pied.
C'est la mort, hey, pas toucher zio. Pas toucher bouchou et try pas toucher no. Social distance, 6 feet minimum. For more information, just dial 311.
What's the book are you? Please stay at your home. Coronavirus coffee Nico Al Capone. Kagwate go should even give you diarrhea. Practice good hygiene, corona can disappear. And to fire some, but virus la. But virus la. But virus la. And to fire some.
And that's quite an animated video there dealing with COVID-19, the virus, sending the message. You have to use all forms in order to be able to get that message across. But let's say good morning to Ms. Dorine Gustave. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on our Zoom platform today.
Good morning. Hi, Lisa. Good morning to all the listeners out there.
Thank you so much. I know that it has been busy for you. We saw all of those rains coming down there on Friday. And in the afternoon, we had a flood warning that was issued for between 2 p.m. to midnight. And certainly we saw that the warning was absolutely in order because downtown Castries was a lake, you know, so, you know, we had the businesses being affected in Castries. We had pedestrians unable to move around, vehicles that were stuck right there where they couldn't move because the water level was so high. Talk to us from the NEMO perspective, Dorine, in terms of any emergency calls that you would have, or situation that you've responded to as a result of those heavy rains from Friday right up until Saturday and somewhat on Sunday as well.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Lisa, for having me. Saint Lucia and the rest of the region has been experiencing bad weather for a number of days now. And with that bad weather, we saw the flooding and a number of landslides. We did receive calls from individuals whose property was partially or totally destroyed. We had one instance again in the Bocage area. We have one in Marigot where the home was totally destroyed. And just this morning, I received a call from the Tiroche area where there is a house that is at present moving due to the rainfall and a landslide nearby. We are continuing to receive reports. We saw reports from Soufrière, where the Colombette area is impassable due to a major landslide in that area. Our district disaster committees are continuing to send in the reports as they receive them, and they will be continuing throughout the day. What I want persons to be aware of is that we are not through the weather system yet. We are still being impacted. This afternoon, we will be experiencing some rain, or we expected to be getting some rain in the afternoon, and so we're asking persons in low-lying area, flood-prone areas, landslide-prone areas to be extra vigilant and be careful and pay attention to what is happening around you.
In terms of anyone calling, and you mentioned that some of the homes damaged, one completely destroyed, Dorine, the level of support that individuals are requesting, have you received any request for some assistance from these affected individuals?
Yes. The one in Bocage, the family cannot go back into the house at all because the landslide came to the back and pushed the house off its pillars. So they cannot access that house at all. All of the property, everything is in there still. So we have assisted them. A neighbor took them in rent-free for a month. And we assisted them with a few mattresses, some bedding, and some food items to assist them in the period that they will be, at least for now. We will be continuing to liaise with them to find out how we could continue to offer that kind of support to them. Okay. The one in Tiroche, the gentleman said to me, he does not know what to do. His house is, I asked them to evacuate and await our district disaster committee chair, his members to come and do a site visit in the area. And we will be liaising. I just received a call, in fact. We will be liaising with infrastructure to find out from them, from the engineering department, what their recommendations are. But they did go to the Bocage one, and they recommended that the family evacuate and not return to the house.
Yes, and it seems that our communities are very, very vulnerable, Dorine, because we did have all of those rains earlier on before with the tropical storm. Help me home, the name eludes me now.
Tropical storm Grace.
Tropical storm Grace, and before that, we did have what became the hurricane system before that. Mm-hmm. So with that, our communities, the soil is saturated, so they are in precarious situations, are they not?
I didn't get that clearly.
Now, saying that considering all the previous weather systems, the previous rain events that we've had, that our communities are definitely in a very vulnerable state at this time.
Indeed, and that is why we're asking persons to be vigilant, to those persons who can clear your water path, ensure that there is no debris in there, ensure that you do your part in securing your property. There is quite a bit of saturation, and we are expecting more severe weather.
And in addition to that, Ms. Gustave, we know that we are in the midst of the hurricane season. Are there any signs that our residents or people in Saint Lucia can look for just to ensure that their property may not be in immediate danger, signs or signals that may be seen in terms of that?
Because of our topography, we know that persons who are living on slopes ought to ensure that their water has proper path. If you do not have that, then you are prone to land slippage. Low-lying areas, persons who are living in the villages, for instance, castries, castries is a perennial problem for years. Studies have been done, mitigation projects has been undertaken, and yet we're seeing all of these problems. And we know that climate change causes a lot more severe weather systems. So a lot more rainfalls, a lot more dry season, the wind speeds, and all of that. So persons ought to take personal responsibility to secure your property. Before the start of the hurricane season, we did put out there for persons to secure your roof as much as possible. There are things that individual households can do to secure their property. But in the event that they can't, and we need to come in when there is a weather system to evacuate persons, we need them to let us know so that we can get them out of harm's way prior to the event.
That makes sense. Thank you so much for that information. In addition to that, we know that the National Emergency Management Organization, like you mentioned, you've assisted some families with the damage that has been caused to their property. If there's anybody within, the Saint Lucian community who would like to contribute to NEMO's efforts, how do they go about doing that?
They could call NEMO at 468-2126 or 452-3802 and ask how they could assist, what are the needs. We do not want persons to just bring just anything, because persons will have specific needs and would rather handle it in that manner. So what are the needs? We will guide them, and we accept them at our headquarters at BZ, sorry.
Nice. And Lisa, as we know,
I just want to inform too that after the passage of Hurricane Elsa, we have assisted a number of families with mattresses. As you would know, it was a lot of roof damage, mattresses, beddings. We have given a number of these out. We are short on them now. We're expecting to get a few more, but right now we're short on them. We are trying to get donations in that regard. So anyone who can assist, we will gladly receive that assistance.
Very nice. And as we know, Lisa and Gustave, our sister of Haiti, has recently undergone quite a bit of damage in terms of having two natural disasters hit them. In terms of, Saint Lucia's assistance to NEMO, is there anything that you could tell us in terms of that?
Right now, what we're receiving is we have got the needs list. However, they're saying that they'd rather cash donations and to purchase the items on island. They have the items there because what has happened in the past is that you find that persons have, during an emergency event, you get a lot of unsolicited donation. And because of that, they'd rather purchase in themselves. So there is, SEDIMA has put together an account where persons can make the donations. I will be sending out this information today to the various media houses so they can assist us in passing on the information. So today we will be doing just that. We will not be receiving the donations locally, since there is already something in place from the regional standpoint.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Gustave. Lisa?
Thank you so much. There's the director for the National Emergency Management Organization and NEMO. And just to reiterate, Dorine, that NEMO would really appreciate some public assistance in being able to procure some mattresses, yes?
Indeed, that would assist us greatly.
All right, so we'll keep that going. Thank you so much for taking the time, and we look forward to another update as NEMO is in action assisting solutions who were affected by the weather there, the tropical depression, was it?
It's a depression? Yes.
It's a wave.
It was a wave. All right, a tropical wave. Thank you so much for that, Dorine. On the weekend, so we have individuals in Bocage, Marigot, and Tiroche. Well, there's some damage there in Soufrière, in the Columbet area as well. It's a landslide reported there. But individuals, households affected there in Bocage, Marigot, and Tiroche. And NEMO is asking for a public assistance that can come through in being able to procure mattresses, because they're short on that, haven't given them out to St. Lucians during Hurricane Elsa, in the aftermath of Hurricane Elsa. So we want to be able to provide assistance to fellow brothers and sisters right here at home. We want to stay with the weather, and we'll take a very short break. When we come back, we'll be speaking with the director for the Met Services, Andre Joyeux, just after this short.
We can win this war. Get vaccinated, taking our life back. Get Get vaccinated, we know what to do. Get vaccinated, COVID-19 we won't lose to you. Oh no. Take 2 doses, take our life back. Time for a brand new day. Take 2 doses, take our life back. To live and work and play. Take 2 doses, take our life back. The health experts we trust. Take 2 doses, take our life back. Vaccinate for you, for yours, for us.
Let's take our life back with a safe and effective AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. The mobile vaccination drive is coming to you. Visit the Ministry of Health and Wellness and Bureau of Health Education Facebook pages for more information. Let's take our life back. Vaccinate for you, for yours, for us.
Get vaccinated.
This message is brought to you by the Bureau of Health Education of the Ministry of Health and Wellness and this station.
And welcome back to It's Homer, and we're here for the Mind Brew on this Monday. It's August 23rd, 2021. We have online Zoom call right now with us, the Director for Met Services, Mr. Andre Joyeux. Good morning to you, sir.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Checking my mic. Okay.
Yes, we're hearing you very nice,
very
loud
clearly.
and clear. Thank you so much for taking some time out to speak with us. And
Sure, not a problem.
from Friday, we've had our eyes to the sky, really seen all of dark clouds there. And of course, we suffered the end result with all of that flooding, especially in the city center. On Friday, we saw lots of rain continuing on. So for us, wise, we know that we are in the season, so it's not an unexpected event to see heavy rains, but we do have some weather systems that are out there that are going to make it just a little bit wet for us for the next few days. Tell us more.
Okay. We just had a tropical wave give us a lot of fall last night. This was in a divergence zone, and we are expecting another tropical wave maybe tomorrow. But ahead of that wave, intertropical convergence zone will most likely give us some rainfall tonight. So we will be issuing a flood warning later today for those conditions, because we are already saturated from Friday, well, even from the week before, when Tropical Storm Grace passed. We had significant rainfall from that event. And coming into this weekend, we had a very wet 3 days, and it is expected to continue until tomorrow.
Do you know how much rain are we expecting with this new system?
Okay, it's actually billed as a weak wave, but I don't think we can take any chances. So we most likely would be going for between 1 to 2 inches of rainfall.
And when you couple that with what, as you indicated, what we had experienced on the weekend and even the week before, it certainly can make it a very dangerous situation for individuals in low-lying areas and those areas where we have compromised areas as well. I mean, from Dorine Gustave, that over in Bocage, we've had another dwelling, a house or a building being compromised there by another landslide. So in terms of the areas in Saint Lucia that you would think would be most vulnerable at this time, what would you identify them to be?
Okay, that'd be a question for NEMO. But in general, when it comes to flooding, as you know, the Castries Basin is first and Denrick Village has been a sore point where whenever it rains heavily, the village is flooded. So it really is a case of the rainfall. Where is it located? Because sometimes once the cloud sits on a particular area, that area would be flooded.
That makes
because
sense.
we've had flooding in all villages over the past. So it basically comes down to where the thunderstorm affects.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Now, we see that over the past few days in terms of the weather, although we have been expecting quite a bit of rain, our seas were relatively calm. But according to the weather report, we are expecting a few rough seas.
Yes. Presently, the winds have picked up. So we're expecting the waves to be between 6 to 8 feet. So that mandates a high seas warning. So we're asking small craft operators and sea beavers to be cautious and that they shouldn't venture far from port.
Nice. Lisa?
I know you said it's a weak wave that we're expecting, but how quickly would it be moving? Because we know if it remains, stationary, it's just not good. Slow movement, not good at all. So how quickly we're expecting it to just go on and move on out to sea, or if it's going to be moving on out over any other islands? And is it likely that we're seeing any strengthening of any of those tropical waves out there?
Okay, well, right now the intertropical convergence zone is enhancing the waves. So Friday, we had significant rainfall from those two systems coupling. The intertropical convergence zone is normally located south of us. It has raised up. I believe it would be because of the number of tropical waves that is lined up in the Atlantic right now. I think we have about 4 of them presently. So they would be coming in one after the other. And that has raised the intertropical convergence zone to, I think it has gone as far as Martinique. And because of its presence, our forecast would still go for heavy showers.
Okay. And just someone is asking me for you to explain the intertropical convergence zone. When you say that, what does it mean?
Okay. The intertropical convergence zone is an area where the northeast trade winds from the northern hemisphere meets up with the southeast trade winds from the southern hemisphere. It's a line. It normally is depicted by a line, and in the rainy season, it raises up to the islands, and then it recedes back in the dry season. This is one reason places like Trinidad and Guyana has 2 rainy seasons, because as that line of convection moves up and down, it passes them twice. So this is an area that is the, how would I put it, where you could get the turn-in required for formation of tropical systems because of those 2 winds meeting. So it's an area of low pressure. It's the breeding ground for cyclones.
And is that how you identify that we would have an overactive rainy season? Is that what assists you in identifying that?
It would be one of the factors. We do not do the predictions in Saint Lucia, but you have the Colorado State University, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agencies. They will take a number of factors. One would be the El Nino or La Nina event in the Pacific. Then you would have to look at the winds. Are we getting strong winds or light winds? Because light winds are better for the formation. Even the Saharan dust would be a factor. If you have too much Saharan dust in the air, it would not aid in the development of systems. But you would require just the right amount for cyclogenesis.
So are you pardon me, I was going to ask, pertaining to that and the predictions, we know they said above normal, we had a sort of vision of what the prediction was. And so are you keeping count? I know that we have Tropical Storm Henri up there in the northeastern section of the U.S., lashing them there on Sunday. So how far along are we in terms of the number of storms that have been predicted?
Well, Henri, as you mentioned, is number 8, and we are in the middle of the season, which is about September the 10th. So this is the first half of the hurricane season, and we're expecting the second half. So it's on line to meet the projections, because some of the predicted cyclones were for between 17 to 21 this year. So if this is 8, and we might have a few before we get to the 10th of September, we kind of halfway there for the active season 2021.
And so now we also need to prepare, I would imagine, Andre, that no longer can we say, yay, that November 3rd is over and so the season is over. We see that storms and systems emerge long after the official end of the hurricane season.
Yes, that is correct. Well, one of the famous events was the Christmas Eve trough. This is a phenomena that we didn't have before. Outside of the hurricane season, we have always had upper level troughs giving us weather, but the Christmas Eve trough was, I would say, the perfect storm. Everything aligned, and we got that amount of rainfall and damage in December. So yes, we need to always be on the guard for weather systems. One of the areas was for the reorganizing of the hurricane season that was on the agenda for the National Hurricane Center, and they were thinking of changing the start and end date of the hurricane season, but they finally kept it the same way it is, barring further information. So in the past, we've had tropical systems forming from January all the way down to December. So basically, cyclone formation can happen any time of the year, not just in the hurricane season.
And so we must always be ready, always be prepared.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much there for spending a little time there with us. And we're looking forward to the next weather report, the next weather update. And just to remind us that your flood warning, so just give us a little reminder about the system that we're expecting, the tropical wave that we're expecting.
Yes, we will be issuing a flood warning from 8 this morning, because any rainfall occurring today would cause flooding because of the saturation of the soils, and the models are showing that we are expecting a tropical wave to go through by tomorrow, but ahead of it we will be having some instability, and that would cause showers from this afternoon into tonight. So persons in low-lying areas and flood-prone areas, please take the necessary precautions, like Ms. your waterways, make sure that they are clear, and if you need to move to higher ground, please do so.
All right, thank you so much there, the Director for Met Services, Andre Joyeux, and we hope to speak with you soon. Thank you so much, sir, for that information and for giving us that warning there. So, Homer, we need to, as we did on Friday, hurry, get the day, whatever you're doing, make sure that you do it with haste.
Indeed.
And so that if you are going to head downtown in the Castries City Center. You want to be able to, whatever you're doing, do it quickly, organize yourself. Double check your homes to make sure that everything is in good. You know, you can walk that perimeter around your home and see what's happening with your soil. If you are in any area that is precarious, check your waterways to ensure that there's happening there and you do not have the water backing up and sitting there creating a situation, because as you've just heard, we are expecting more rains there for today.
Very true. And you know, Lisa, just listening to you speak about that, I was just thinking about like your perimeter of your home. One of the things that you could probably realize is degradation taking place in the surroundings, and planting may be a good way to reduce that. I guess in terms of the type of plant that would assist, you may have to do a little bit of research as to you know, what plants have roots that are strong enough to keep you know, some of the soil, but that may be a way that assists with that.
And you need Department of Forestry always very eager to assist. You know, anyone wanting to find out and they have no idea, they can always call the Forestry Department. They can guide you as to the sort of trees that you would need to put to be able to stabilize the soil. And they don't even sell. They sell some of those at very affordable prices as well. You know, so, or, you know, there are always individuals who are involved in the landscaping business. You could always check that out as well.
Sure.
But I would say, first off, you can always give the Forestry Department a quick call, and they are always very ready and willing to assist. I can tell you that. Very much so. So we are very much in our final moments, and we do have some fuel price adjustments, Roma.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to go through that for us?
I just pull it up, but I did realize that there was an increase in a decrease, in cooking gas. Oh, there we go. Look at you. Thank you so much. So in keeping with the changes in the international oil prices and, of course, government's application of the modified market pass-through petroleum pricing mechanism, we saw the retail price of LPG 22 and 100-pound cylinders. That has changed. We see the retail price of gasoline, diesel, and kerosene remaining unchanged. And that takes effect today, August 23rd, 2021. So let me just go through that for you. The pound cylinder has decreased from being $31.06 to $31.59 per cylinder. The 22-pound cylinder also decreased today from $34.81 to $34.75 per cylinder. And the 100-pound cylinder also decreasing there from $219.79 to $219.26 per cylinder. We do expect the next adjustment to be place on September 3rd. So that is Monday, the 13th, of September.
All right. So at the pumps, things are doing what it's doing, and we must do what we need to do. The wearing of our mask and sanitizing and social distancing, very important.
Very important.
And let's remind them of the active cases that we have now, Homa. For COVID-19, our active cases are?
Our active cases are at 1,430. Yes, 1,430. Quite a few here. I saw somebody in our comments. Let me say good morning to all our viewers. Of course, saying masker-like opinions. Everyone should have one. Stop the spread. I like that.
I like that very much. I saw that and I gave it a little chuckle, and I want to say good morning to Dawn Marie, very ardent.
Yes,
very
good morning, Dawn.
Dawn Marie, thank you so much. Good morning to Antoine. We appreciate it very much. So, we just want to remind you that vaccination for Pfizer, that begins today. And right now they are at the VG Sports Complex. I can stay from our offices and look on down there and see the activity that's going on. And they're also at the Soufre Hospital grounds, and they start from 9 a.m. and they're there up until 4 p.m. That's just today's schedule, and of course we'll be updating you as to what the other vaccination sites are.
And we did also see the Ministry of Health giving out just facts about the Pfizer vaccine for people who are interested in receiving it. Just a few things given in an injection. The second dose is given 28 days after the first dose. It is given in the upper arm, within the shoulder muscle. So these are a few things. In addition to that, we did mention that unlike the AstraZeneca vaccine, it is or can be available to individuals 12 years, and older. But if you are under 18, you do need to be accompanied by a parent to ensure that you get your dose of Pfizer vaccine. So these are a few things that the Ministry of Health are putting out in Director of Met Services. So just going through the weather just to ensure we inform you of the weather conditions today. The winds will be blowing east near 23 miles per hour or 30 per hour with occasional gusts. The weather, mostly cloudy skies. We're expecting today with scattered showers, which may be heavy at times, and isolated thunderstorms are also expected today. Of course, and landslides, you are advised to be vigilant today and exercise extreme caution. Our seas are expected to be moderate to locally rough today, with waves 5 to 8 feet or 1.5 to 2.4 meters. Small craft operators, sea beavers, you are advised to exercise caution, extreme caution, due to brisk winds and locally rough areas.
So in the 50 seconds that I have left, let me just say, responding there, the Cuban vaccine, not in circulation yet, has not been approved. When that is approved, the government of Saint Lucia will be providing, increasing the options that Saint Lucians have for the vaccine. Why can't they be in other places like the Morn side? There's a mobile vaccination unit as well, going to communities. We'll be getting a schedule for you for that as well. And of course, you can call any of the wellness centers, one that is near you, to make an appointment. You can walk in as well, make the appointment so that you can receive the vaccine right there in your community. You don't need to leave your community in order for you to get vaccinated.
Very true.
And also, just want to say to Don Marie, umbrellas, no. My way of dealing with the rain today is to hurry, get what I need to get done, and head on in.
Not a foolproof way, but I'm very sure she can do it.
I'm Mr. Joseph alongside Homer DeMarc. Thank you so much for spending the morning with us on The Morning Brew. See you tomorrow, God willing.